away from Deadpool being called Captain Deadpool. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Deadpool, released in 2016. Deadpool is a comic book that was created by Rob Liefeld, and it was directed by Tim Miller, and is written by Tim Miller, Paul Wernick, and Rhett Reese. And the movie stars Ryan Reynolds, Marina Beckham, T.J. Miller, he said Brenda Holland, Ed Skrein, and Leslie Uggam. The movie is essentially a movie about a superhero, played Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds, who previously played this character in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but we don't talk about that movie. And so eventually he plays this character, and this is more of a rebooted version of this character, but still played by Ryan Reynolds, where essentially this character is, a mercenary who basically goes and dies of cancer. He's dying of cancer, and so basically these people offer him a chance to basically become a mutant, where they take his mutant ability and they could cure him, offer him a chance to be cured, in which of course it's a situation where they torture mutants, and of course he goes there, they torture him, and basically he becomes he gets disfigured and everything, but he becomes immune to bullets and different things like that, where when he gets shot he won't die. Essentially he's immune to pain, suffering, all that stuff. And so basically whenever he basically becomes, then he decides to get his revenge on those people, and then he becomes Deadpool, and he basically puts on the red costume and goes after her. But then when they take his wife, he basically has to seek revenge against them as well on that. So the movie is a comic book, like I said, created by Rob Liefeld, and I really enjoyed this comic book. When I heard that they were going to do this as a movie, I'm like, there's no way I can do this as a movie, because I have to make it serious, because if it be's a comedy, it's gonna be like, I always think, when I think of a comedy that people want action in, I always get that mashup of Green Hornet, and I feel like that was something that the studio wanted to do as a comedy, and Seth Rogen wanted to do as a serious superhero film, and it just became two mushed up, mashed up, monstrous things, and it doesn't work. And I feel like this is what I was afraid was, like, okay, Ryan Reynolds is gonna want to do this as a comedy, and then they're gonna want to do this as a serious superhero film, and then of course it's going to be a mishmash, and it's not going to work. And I will tell you, when I saw the advertisement they were doing for this movie, I was impressed. That they were just like I remember seeing Ryan Reynolds just posting jokes online about this, saying Comic-Con por favor, he's in Mexico hitchhiking a ride to Comic-Con, or when there's a testicular cancer ad in the Blu-ray where it says go ahead, touch yourself, just like that. And just it was so crazy how funny that these jokes are. Especially, I remember seeing a clip from this movie where it's he he poses to his girlfriend, where he has a ring pop up his ass. And just, where'd you get it from? No, you see a shot of his ass. I'm like, okay, this is funny. You have me. I'm gonna watch this. And so it came out on Valentine's Day, and I remember people just lining up to go see this movie. And this movie was really good. I watched this movie, and I'm like, this is one of the best movies of 2016. Literally, I could watch this over and over again. I mean, and it's a cheap budgeted movie. This movie is very cheap. I think it's $80 million they spent on this movie, and it's very, very cheap. I remember during the press tour, they had an alcohol company sponsor the movie, and Ryan Reynolds would even do for the press tour. He would they'd play darts during the press tour with the interviewer. They would say, okay, you can interview us in the press tour, but you'd have to play darts with us. And I thought that was really interesting. Or they'd play they'd play pool with them or something, and I thought that was interesting. Of course, they did do traditional press tour, but they also did that. I just remember them playing darts with press tour members. I was like, that's interesting, clever. Why don't they do that? Or they'd have a beer with the press, and just that to me is that's interesting marketing, and it shows that Ryan Reynolds, because at this time Ryan Reynolds in his career was not essentially. He was his career was dying out. Okay, let's just say that. Okay, because I'm here Seth Rogen threw him a ball and put him in a cameo in A Million Ways to Die in the West, and Ted as well. Because Ryan Reynolds, of course, his career is fading out, because at the time he was rising star and everything. Did movies like The Proposal and everything, and he did X-Men Orange Wolverine, and then he's so good in that. Even though the movie wasn't great, the movie still made money, and he was great in that. And the studio's we want to make a Deadpool movie with him. And so then, of course, he had Green Lantern signed on, and once he did Green Lantern, that's when everything started going to shit for him, because the movie was awful. And then, of course, people didn't like the movie, and then, of course, he got divorced from Scarlett Johansson, and his career just took a big tumble, and he was only getting independent movies, or he was getting movies that are not very good movies, and so it's he was just his career was And I remember he guest starring on Family Guy, and he was so clever in that episode of Family Guy, and I remember Seth Rogen then just puts him in like just a voiceless like cameo in Ted, and where he just plays himself, and just I never say like his. Just call him like he's like a guy who likes to beat up other gay guys, and who's also a gay guy, and I was just like, well, okay. I was like, or he just plays a cowboy, and anyways, now he just gets shot. He's just like, and he gets shot. This is the whole role. And I just remember once, and then of course once he did Deadpool. Deadpool that kind of made his career like back up on top. I mean, after Deadpool, he just started like he became number one again. I remember, and I know a lot of people. I have a friend of mine who I done stuff on the channel with, and he said that he's not looking forward to Deadpool because he said he just plays his character in every freaking movie. It's like Ryan Reynolds is just doing the Deadpool shtick again. Like, okay, it's Deadpool in Fall Guy. He's Deadpool, not Fall Guy, but Deadpool and Free Guy. Yeah, Free Guy. It's Deadpool in Six Underground. Deadpool and what's that movie with The Rock? Red Notice. It's like Deadpool in every single movie. Deadpool and If. And it's like, yeah, but I mean people expect that though. Like, people expect him to play this character throughout this movie. I mean, people expect him to play Deadpool. Like they know, okay, Ryan Reynolds has got the career. It's like Al Pacino when after he did that movie Dick Tracy, he started doing that. Ooh-ah. It's like you expect that from Al Pacino now, because it's like, just like Robert De Niro, you kind of expect him after he did Meet the Parents, he kind of stuck and he basically plays like he has the same expression he does every single movie, the Jack Burns expression. Everybody expects that from him. I mean, it's just you expect Ryan Reynolds, like you expect like him to ad lib jokes and him to be this goofy character that this like and I understand some people are like, well, it's like you don't have to play his character in every film. You could change it up, and there are times where he has changed it up. I mean, I've not seen If yet, but I'm sure he's not going to sit there and ad lib sex jokes in If. I'm just saying it's possible he does. I'm just saying most likely not. But I will say I do like this movie. I like how it literally goes back and forth. There are some really funny jokes in this movie. Like, I really like how he's trying to kill somebody with a Zamboni. He's like, the guy's just crawling for his life. Like, you're about to die from a Zamboni. I'm like, the montage, and it shows you, like, the comic book accurate costume, then it shows the movie costume, and then it shows you just different things, like, and I like how they have a rap song called Deadpool, and he's like, this shit has nuts in it. Like, and just stuff like that. And also I like how he's like, like how he's like makes the pedophile jokes. Says, hey Jared, how's the foot? And this just keeps calling him pedophile, even though they're not. It's just like that joke it's really funny joke, even it's like because it's like they're not, and so it's like. And also I like how like they're talking about how what was the worst sexual thing they would do to get out of here or something. And it's just so funny, and and so there was just things like that was really funny, and especially how Stanley has a great cameo in the strip club, and now that's a great one. And then on top of that, I love how there's like how they compared like how they get horrible jokes about how like he said they had a worse childhood where he's like, I was molested by my uncle. He goes, uncles, and he goes, I never. He said I had to live in a dishwasher box because you had a dishwasher, just stuff like that. I was like, well, that's it's clever, writing and everything. And I like how there are the jokes with like haunted Segway tours and stuff like that. There's a lot of good jokes, especially with Blind Owl, where he's like, he said you gotta go. I'm gonna go get my masturbating shoes on. He goes, by the way, I left. He says the 20 grams of cocaine next to the cure for blindness. I like how he just leaves, like, and it just shows you, like, okay, there's a big gun battle, but he's like, oh, he doesn't have the budget for it, so they leave the guns in the car. And then it's like, oh, hey, Bob. And he's like, Bob the Hydra, and he punches him in the face, and then one guy, Bill Francis, with one guy's ass hanging out. Just stuff like that I think is really clever, and I thought that was really well done. And, it really shows you the scope of this film. And I really respect that Deadpool is this big, fun film that you can enjoy. And everything, and obviously it's not for kids because there's like nudity, and there's also like there's like the sex montage of the days of the year is crazy, like especially Chinese New Year. I'm like, oh god, and just on top of that, and then of course you have Cable, not Cable, but Colossus, who is a great character because he's almost a pacifist in a way, and he's so funny and everything, and he's just like. And there's just so many innuendo jokes, and there's also, like, he talks about, we're taking the professor, because McAvoy or Stewart, these timelines are so confusing, and just, especially Francis, the villain's name is Ajax, he calls him Francis, and it's just, like, so funny. And the movie really shows you it can be funny, has lots of great action, and it really shows you, especially, like, the jokes and everything are really funny. The action's well notched, and, like, the pacing. It's not a long movie. You can watch this movie like an hour or something. Like, it's not like 2 hours long. So I would say, I think you should really watch this movie if you haven't. It's really fun. It really revitalized Ryan Reynolds' career, and this movie shows you that you can make an $80 million movie and make it good without having to make it a $300 million movie with over use of CGI. And this was made by the guy who had in charge of Blur Studios, Tim Miller, who would go on to direct, like, he would go on to produce the Sonic movies, and he directed reshoots on the Borderlands movie, and he directed Terminator: Dark Fate. And I think he's a good director. He proved it himself, and I think honestly it works because you could tell this movie does look and feel like a big budget movie, even though it's like a cheaply budgeted movie. And I think that really, we should focus on $80 million movies again, and not try to spend $300 million to make a superhero film. When if you look at this movie and other movies have spent less and made more, and are better. So I really think you enjoyed this movie. If I had to give this movie a grade, I would give it an A+. Thank you so much.
You are haunting. You look like an avocado had sex with an older avocado. Thank you.